¿Estaba muy delante?
¿Qué?
¿Ese te ha dicho partido contra?
Ha dicho partido en esta parte del campo, que ahora partido de 8 contra 8, 9 contra 9.
Ah, de 8 contra, vale, es que no...
Si estábamos atrás, y como
¿Y se ha puesto claro para allí?
no lo ha dicho también que el lunes que viene ya empiezan a incorporarse los
Y el domingo ya llegan la mayoría, ¿no?
Sí,
Y que está muy contento con la vida de la joven.
sí, y que hay una buena atmósfera, que muy bien el staff, el tema de Tiago.
Esto se puede decir.
O sea, no que habla con nosotros, pues,
Está muy contento con los jóvenes. Sí, estaba, lo he visto.
Escolta, tu. Merci.
Hello and welcome to Barca 1, where today we are bringing you the first live training session of the season. And indeed the first live training session under the orders of Barca's new coach Hansi Flick ahead of the 2024-2025 season. We're at the Ciutat Esportiva Joan Gamper here, the Camp Tito Vilanova. And you can see early images here of Hansi Flick, Barca's new German coach, saying good morning to President Joan Laporta before today's live session gets started, and Flick will now go and join the rest of the players and his coaching staff ahead of this one. Well, Barca got back to work on the 10th of July under the orders of Hansi Flick. They've had a total of 6 sessions last week that ran through from Wednesday to Sunday. That included double sessions on some of those days. This week, they've had Monday off. Tuesday, they had a singular session. On Wednesday, it was a double session. Thursday, return to being a singular session, and today on the Friday they'll also have 2 sessions, will the Barca players. On Saturday they'll train in the morning, and on Sunday it will be off for Barca. Well, you can see the players there preparing their first physical exercises of this morning as Hansi Flick and his coaching staff make their way over to join the rest of the Barca squad, who are preparing before this pre-season and before, well, roughly a week until they travel to the US for pre-season. And in that pre-season, they'll be playing against Manchester City, Real Madrid and AC Milan. Of course, they played against both Real Madrid and AC Milan in last season's pre-season tour as the exercises get underway this morning for Barca. All the available players training for Barca. Alejandro Valde back training with the group. We can see him there alongside Marc Casador getting started with some early exercises. Of course, some players still injured for Barca. Gavi, of course, still continuing his recovery. He joined up with Spain's celebrations, but is still, of course, suffering from the torn ACL he suffered last November, continuing his recovery away from training, of course. Ronald Araujo has a tendon injury in his right hamstring that he suffered versus Brazil in the quarterfinals of the Copa America. Expected to have surgery in the coming days in Finland. He's not training with the group. Neither is Pablo Torre, who was training until recently, but he fractured his left hand in an impact during Tuesday's session. He was successfully operated on Thursday. And as mentioned, Alejandro Valde is with the group. Barca also has several youngsters joining the first team trainings under Hansi Flick to start the era. There we see some of them. After Alaja, goalkeeper, alongside Gerard Martin too, who had a successful season with Barca Athletic last time around. As Barca getting their first exercises of the morning underway. And as mentioned, they'll be preparing, well, for the first pre-season fixtures, which will be the first action for Barcelona this season. They'll be travelling to America, the United States, where they'll be taking on Manchester City, Real Madrid and AC Milan. The game against Manchester City takes place in the early hours of the morning on Wednesday, the 31st of July. That'll be in Orlando at the Estadio Camping World Session. They'll be playing against Real Madrid then just a few days later, the early hours of Sunday, the 4th of August at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, before in 3 days' time, Wednesday the 7th of August, again early hours of the morning European time, they'll be facing up against AC Milan at the M&T Bank Stadium. That's in Baltimore. Of course, Manchester City. Barca played 2 seasons ago in the Gamper, actually. Of course, big links to Manchester City. Ferran Torres, of course, and Eric Garcia have come from there. And as mentioned, they played each other in the 2022 edition of the Gamper at the Camp Nou. That game ended 3-3. It was a thriller. Real Madrid, of course, Barca know very well. Played them several times last season, as always. And also, of course, played them in last season's pre-season, in which Barca beat Real Madrid 3-0. 2 years ago, they also beat them 1-0 with a Rafinha golazo in Las Vegas. That was also Lewandowski's debut. But most recently, it was Texas, where the two sides faced up against each other in pre-season. 3-0 win for Barca, and of course, famously the game that Fermín López announced himself on the stage for Barca. Well, we can have close-up images now of Marc Casador, Julián Araujo, all training with bands around their waist. Héctor Fort also involved in the quadrant there with Alejandro Valde. That's Barca with their first few touches of the ball of this session. Coaches demanding intensity. And whilst we're at it, we can go through some of Hansi Flick's coaching staff, which I'm sure you'll all be eager to get to know. Of course, Hansi Flick, head coach for Barca. He'll be joined by his assistant coaches, Marcus Sorg and Toni Tablavovic. Heiko Westermann will also be an assistant coach for Hansi Flick. Familiar face in Jose Ramon de la Fuente is the goalkeeping coach again for Barcelona this season. Trusted, and he remains. In the background there, we can see Diego Alcántara, who has joined up with the coaching team for this summer. He'll be with the team for pre-season in the United States of America. Julio Dos, head of fitness training, will also be there. Pepe Conde is in charge of field fitness. Rafa Maldonado is also a field fitness coach, and Germán Fernández is a gym and strength fitness coach for Barca. Now, the first exercises have been complete. Coaching staff having a few words with the players now as they prepare themselves for the next exercise. We can see Heiko Westermann giving instructions there to the players, of which we can now see Oriol Romeo, the back of him. Íñigo Martínez too is also joined up with training, of course. Clément Lenglet, Iñaki Peña, all taking their early touches of the ball. Mika Faye is there in the distance. And of course, there's many players from the youth teams as Barca await numerous first-team players to return, whether that's from injury, whether that's from action in the European Championships or the Copa America, or whether, of course, that's through participating in the Olympics. But some of those youngsters that are training, I'm sure you can see images of a few of them now. Toni Fernández has just turned 16, a striker with a big future at the club. His cousin Guille Fernández is a central midfielder, also 16 years old, recently signed a new contract with the club. Kim Junyet, 17 years old, also midfielder. Andrés Cuenca is a 17-year-old left-footed centre-back. Héctor Fort, we know a lot about, of course. Impressed massively for Barca last season. Provided big assists too. Stepped in very well at left-back. He's naturally a right-back, and we'll be interested to see his involvement in the first team next season. Really impressed in the opportunities he's had. Marc Bernal, a 17-year-old midfielder, another talent for Barca. Noah Darvic, of course, German, has the link with Hansi Flick, and Hansi Flick will know of him from his time in the youth categories in Germany. Another midfielder, still just 17 years old. Diego Kochen, 18 years old, goalkeeper from the USA and Peru. Of course, Barca travelling to the USA. Well, aside from the youngsters, we can have a look at Ansu Fati there. He'll be looking to see what he can do this season, having a conversation with the coaching staff there, as Barca players are now changing drill and seem to be having quite a lot of fun with it too, as they huddle in together for these physical exercises, as the bands around their waists are stretched out, training their core strength, balance. The eyes of Diego Alcántara, of course famous midfielder, recently retired, now joining part of Hansi Flick's coaching staff. We can carry on with some of the youngsters who are training. Unai Hernandez is also training with the Barca first team, just 19 years old, scored 3 goals versus Ibiza in the semi-finals playoffs, as Barca attempted to get promotion to Spanish second top flight. That's Barca Athletic under Rafa Márquez. Had a superb season last time around under the Mexican coach. Mika Faye, similarly so, also 19 years old, also now training with the first team. Hansi Flick there shares a smile and a laugh as his players engage in their exercises, and they do seem to be enjoying themselves on a sunny and hot morning here in Barcelona, in Catalonia. Well, we can see the players there keeping balance, touching the ball on the floor and with their hands at the same time. It's a multitasking drill. Valdez hurt his head there. Players all seem to be enjoying themselves in the sun. Diego Alcántara also joining in with a few early laughs. Carrying on the list of youngsters, Sergio Dominguez is also there, defender, 19 years old. Marc Casador might be one of the biggest names to watch out for, 20 years old, recently signed a new contract with the club. Captain, of course, of the B team last season, as we mentioned. Barça Athletic, as they fought for promotion to the Spanish second division, only thwarted at the last minute by Córdoba in an intense final there. I don't know, Arcangel will eagerly await to see Marc Casador's involvement this season, and sure he'll get minutes in the United States of America. As mentioned, Barca will have 3 games there against Manchester City, Real Madrid and AC Milan. 3 crackers, no doubt. And we're expecting big attendances for all 3 of those games too, as there usually is when Barca come to town. Well, more good news for Barca. Angel Alarcón also involved. Struggled with injury recently. Trilli also. Astralaja, both featured for Barça Athletic last season, as did Gerard Martin, 22-year-old left-back. Played the most minutes under Rafa Marquez last season. Mr. Dependable at the back. And he's also involved here under Hansi Flick, who of course is still awaiting players to come back from international duty. Of course, players will return in the coming weeks depending on when they were eliminated or how far they got in their respective tournaments, whether that is the European Championships or the Copa America. Of course, we can congratulate Pedri, Fermín López, Lamine Yamal and Ferran Torres, who won the Euros with Spain. Rafinha was knocked out in the quarterfinals of the Copa America with Brazil. To Uruguay, actually, but it was Ronald Araujo who actually suffered an injury in that game, and that's the reason he's had to undergo, well, he will be undergoing surgery in the coming days in Finland. That's a tendon injury in his right hamstring. As mentioned, he suffered that in the game against Brazil. Uruguay won that game, but Araujo, of course, now will be unavailable. And depending on how he recovers, that will mark his returning availability. Well, the coach is there with eager eyes looking on at their Barca players training. The ones available, of course, as mentioned, plenty coming up from the youth ranks to come and help out Hansi Flick in his early days as Barca coach. We can see Ansu Fati there again. I just got a glimpse of Vitor Roque too, the young Brazilian striker. Also, of course, training with the first team. Must make a note of the players who are going to be at the Olympic Games this summer too. We mentioned the 4 champions with Spain at the Euros. Well, Eric Garcia, Pau Cubarsí and Fermín López, who of course was at the Euros, are all now training with Santi Denia's Spain squad as they take on the Olympics this summer in Paris. No doubt will be eagerly seeing their progress in the competition, but of course that means they won't be joining part of Barça's US tour. Been a busy summer for Fermín, no doubt about that. Of course, Pau Cubarsí was with the initial Spain European Championship squad. He's now joined up for the Olympics. As Barça continue with their first exercises of Friday's live training session, the first live training session under the orders of Hansi Flick. And we hope you're all enjoying the progress that the team have made in the early days, and of course we all await a big season under the German coach. The first games of which will be against Manchester City, Real Madrid and AC Milan. But after that, the team will of course return to Barcelona, where it will be Gamper time. They'll be taking on AS Monaco in the Gamper. We have an opponent for Barça that will be taking place on Monday the 12th of August in the evening. So it's a French opponent for Barça at the Estadio Olímpic Luis Companys. That's Spanish time, 8 p.m. Tickets are now available for that one, of course, and there'll be coverage of the Gamper on Barça 1. Last time Barça played Monaco was in the 93-94 season. Barça won 1-0 away from home. A goal from Stoichkov. 2 goals from Chiki Begerstein at home made it a 2-0 win for Barça 2. That was in the European Cup, as it was called back then. So it's been some time. Some 20 years, in fact. Some 30 years since Barça and Monaco last faced up against each other. So they'll be coming back together for the Gamper, which of course will be the first game back at Montjuic for next season. Before La Liga fixtures start, if the Gamper's on the 12th of August, well, La Liga comes soon after. Saturday the 17th of August is Barça's first fixture in La Liga, and it's at Mestalla. It should be a cracker, away to Valencia. That's Saturday the 17th of August for that one. 9:30 p.m. Spanish time kickoff for that one in the evening on Saturday. And Barça's first home game of La Liga is on Saturday the 24th of August, 7 p.m. Spanish time in the evening also, against Athletic Club. Quite a tasty first 2 games in all truth for Hansi Flick to get his teeth into, and for this group of players to test themselves ahead of what will be an important season in La Liga, as Barca will look to regain their crown that they lost, of course, to Real Madrid last season. Of course, they had it in the 2022-2023 season. So no doubt Barca will be eagerly awaiting the start of the La Liga fixtures. Well, you can see images there of the coaching staff and, of course, the available Barca players just switching drills now. Now dragging the bands away from each other. Of course, pre-season, such a crucial time to build strength, to build fitness, to build up stamina ahead of what will be a taxing season for Barca. They'll be competing in, of course, 4 competitions: La Liga, the Champions League, the Copa del Rey, and, of course, Supercopa de España, the Spanish Super Cup in Saudi Arabia, which of course will take place in January as usual. And as mentioned, those first opening La Liga fixtures for Barca, first of all away at Mestalla, away at Valencia, before they then face Athletic Club at home. It's then away to Rayo Vallecano. That's on Tuesday the 27th of August, so fixtures crammed in early on. And then on Saturday the 31st of August, their last fixture before the September international break is up against Real Valladolid at home. Saturday the 31st of August, that is. So, of course, 2 games away and 2 games at home are Barca's first 4 fixtures in La Liga. Before, of course, that September international break, where the players will join up with their respective nations once more. And of course, we hope it's 12 points out of 12 for Barca in those opening fixtures. Well, the ball being just touched around here now. First real pure football sessions, or drills I should say, underway now. We see the quadrant of Julián Araujo, Marc Casadó, Alejandro Valde, and Héctor Fort, all taking their early touches of the ball this morning. Looking ahead then to some of the season, some of the important dates you might want to keep your eye on. We've got the first Catalan derby of the season, actually Barca's 5th game in La Liga, so straight after Valladolid. And when they return from the international break, Barca will visit Montilivi, where they'll face up against Girona. We fast forward to October. It's a trip to the Santiago Bernabéu towards the end of October to face Real Madrid. Barca will also be facing Espanyol the week after that, start of November. The last game of the year will be at home to Atletico Madrid. That's towards the end of December. Should be another thriller. The home Clásico for Barcelona will be roughly mid-May. A little bit later than usual, usually at the end of April. Could make things more interesting. There'll be just 3 La Liga games after that Clásico. Well, of course, as mentioned, Barca still awaiting players to return from international duty. Likes, of course, ter Stegen, Gundogan, Koundé, Cancelo not rather. Of course, Cancelo and João Felix participated with Portugal in the European Championships, not contracted by Barcelona anymore. Of course, we followed their progress. but of course their contracts expired on the 30th of June. Of course, as mentioned, the Spain players will be awaiting, as of course Rafinha, Robert Lewandowski too, Andreas Christensen, all players still to return to training for Barcelona. And of course we had good news too yesterday. The new shirt was released, and it's a beauty, it's fair to say, ahead of the 2024-2025 season. As Barca changing drills here, Hansi Flick having a word with his coaching staff, Julio Dos. As Barca players getting some drinks down them, getting some refreshments. It's a hot morning here in Catalonia. Pre-season only going to get tougher, only going to get hotter for these Barca players. But as mentioned, the start is so important. Have to get things right at the beginning. Can make all the difference in the long run. Ahead of, as mentioned, what will be a taxing season for Barcelona, with plenty of fixtures, and of course we hope Barca go all the way